Hello, my friends. Hello, Barb. How are you? Thank you for the wishes. You guys ready to color today? So excited. I hope you are subscribed to the OLO channel. If you are not subscribed, take a minute to subscribe now while we are getting started. And be sure and hit the like, because that tells the robo patrollers of the internet that people want to see more from OLO markers. So let's feed the robots. Hey, Kathy. We are going to do some very fun textures today that I've been working on, actually for a couple months. Working with, if you are a paper crafter and you are joining us, then you are probably used to using the brush end of your markers. Hey, Lori, the gang's all here. And I'm used to using the brush end of my markers, but you would be amazed what you can do with the chisel end. So I'm going to show you like how many different ways I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a couple different ways, 2 or 3 different ways to use your chisel end of your markers, because you can do a ton of stuff. You can get like special effects, marker special effects. So that's kind of fun. Hey, Lee, we have many states represented already. I wanted to start though by talking about something some of you may already know. Hang on, let me turn off my work noises. And that is that these markers are modular. So you can, depending on your project, and this, I'll just tell you how I like to do these. I like to pair up my markers for my project. So, for example, if you have 2 different colors, that's one obvious way to put them together if you wanted to have blending pairs. And the way you do that is with this little connector. And you put that in one side, and then you just screw on the other one. And then you can see, this is one of my favorite product design features, is when they communicate something without words. So OLO communicates something to you without words on the color of the marker barrel. And that is whether or not it is a chisel tip or a brush tip. So you can see the chisel tips will be gray and the brush tip side will be black. So without having to read anything, you can visually identify this on your desk, and it makes it so much easier just to grab the correct marker. Now, so I'll be using several of these little pairs today. I'll tell you one thing that's fun if you're like me and you don't necessarily put everything back the way it was before you started coloring, that you may then find some kind of unusual pairs in your marker storage. So you may say, oh, I would like my R1.5, and you pull it out and it's got something random stuck on the other end. So then you have to go look for the other half of that marker. So in addition to coloring, you can create your own marker scavenger hunt. So it's fun for the whole family, right? Okay. So the first thing that we will do is I'll do the simplest stone or masonry sort of texture, which really is brick. That's the simplest. Well, I'll actually start, I'll put down a little put down a little color here first. You got to get the chisels, Lee. They're such different animals. And, you know, it's funny because I think that people that do illustration just naturally use the chisel tip more. They're doing different kinds of strokes than we are when we're coloring stamp images. And so it doesn't seem as different to them as when we are coloring and then we're like, hey, I can do something fun with the chisel instead of just, you know, cover a large amount of space quickly. You can do a lot more than color a large amount of space quickly. Hey, Cherie. And honestly, you can cover a large amount of space quickly with the brush tip. I mean, if we're just being real. So I'll prove it. I'll prove that to you. We'll just get some color down here. And we're going to do two different kinds of mortar technique. So we're going to do a mortar technique that is a light mortar. So what you're used to seeing with brick, for example, which is what we'll do first. And that is, you could leave this white as well. You don't have to put a color down. But to me, this kind of like warm-ish putty sort of color with the brick, I think makes a big difference. So this is warm gray number 1. And see what I mean? You can get tons of color down quickly with your brush. You can also use those painter handles because you see how far back I'm holding this. And you can do this same kind of paintbrush motion that I like to do. Now, this doesn't have to be even. You don't have to blend this first layer. As a matter of fact, it's going to look better at the end of the day if it's not blended. The other thing that you could do is if you wanted to add a little bit of texture, you could flick some black ink or paint over this to give it that real sort of irregular grout look that you're used to. But so we'll start with the simplest masonry texture, which is the brick. Okay, so I showed you in a past video, I showed you, let me get a little, I don't want to give away one of my secrets, so I'm going to tear this piece of paper. I showed you how you could get a very dense brick texture. So if you look back at my last video on the OLO channel, I was using this tip of the marker. And so you have the angle kind of going up to the right if you're right-handed, and that will give you this small row of bricks. But if you have a larger scale project, now I'm actually covering, this is going to be a chimney, so I'm covering up the top of one side so you don't actually have to go all the way up. But you can use this side. So the longer side of the marker makes the most perfect bricks. And since I said the word perfect, which I'm never supposed to say because I don't believe in it, a little irregularity is really nice, right? So I showed you how to do this, where you offset the brick from one row to the next. You're going to cover the gaps. So you can just keep going. This is kind of a Zen. It's almost like Zen tangling. It's kind of a Zen process. Don't worry if they're not perfectly straight, unless you're like in England, where I'm completely making this up, but I imagine that their bricks are all straight. You probably always see a little bit of variation when you see any kind of masonry. And when we do the kind of more cobblestone texture that I'm going to teach you in a little bit, we're really going to get very imperfect and wonky. But these bricks let you just use the simple shape of the marker to create a shape. But as you can probably tell, it's a little bit flat. Like it doesn't look, oops, that one got a little curly. Probably get fired for laying bricks like that. It looks a little bit flat when you do this. So I'm going to show you another way to use the chisel that really amps up your brickage, makes your bricks look much more realistic. So this is like the simplest thing you can do. This is not even, you're not even coloring yet. It's repetitive, it's easy, it's fun. Anybody can do it. You could get your kids to make chimneys for all your Christmas cards. Isn't that the reason people have children? So that they can make them do tasks that they don't want to do. You can have them making little bricks. Okay, so you can use the edge of the point like this. You can use the edge of the diagonally slanted side of the chisel. If there are technical terms for these two sides, Lori, you have to tell me what they are. I'm just calling them words that are in my head. Okay, so we're almost done. I'm almost to the point where we're going to cover this up with snow, and I'll give you two finishing steps that'll really make this look great. And then I'll show you a trick that I think you will like. So again, don't worry about your different gaps. I think I'm good there. Yeah, I'm good. So this is my little Christmas chimney, right? So now, because I put these two together, so this was the R1.5, and this is the RV 0.6. So I will just make my shading, and this is like the most simple thing in the world, because what you're going to do, and you can remember because I'm the one that's teaching you this, all you have to remember is you got to put an L on it. So what you do is you kind of come down hard with the tippy tip part on the left hand side, and then you just go skating across. So just a little flick. And on the flick, you can see that these make a very thin line. Like that is a super, super thin and precise part of the bottom of that chisel. And so I'm getting this kind of fatter line at the top with the one side of the marker, but then I'm getting like almost a pen thin line with the side. So you get, how many tricks is that so far? 3 tricks out of the chisel? No, 4 tricks, right? Because I did my little tiny bricks too. And you can go for more contrast on these. You can go for a darker color, but I actually find that when you're doing bricks, you're already looking at them from a little bit farther away than I am. So you're getting the benefit of that depth perception that you get with some kinds of subtle shading. I actually think the subtle shading looks better. So if you're just looking, I won't even hold it super close, but if you're just looking at the difference between these bricks, tippy tip, it's the official name. Please start using this term. If you look at the difference between these bricks and these bricks, even though the tonal value of these two colors that I chose is not very different, it's really not. They're very close to the same tonal value. They look completely different. Like one of them looks much more realistic than the other. Okay, so see how this is pointed up and back towards my hand? So the way you're holding the marker is like that. So this is like straight up between your fingers. And then you just make your L for your bricks. And if you feel like some of the gaps are too big, you can actually just, since this is a slightly darker color, you can kind of go into the white section. I did that on the finished sample that I'm going to show you and in the video. But you can basically correct some mistakes with this second part. So like there, you could see, even on this one, there's a little bit of a wonky edge. This chisel gives me the nice straight edge. that I can fix that with. So I can look like I paid a lot more attention to the shape of my bricks than I actually did. And then go across with the tippy tip. And then you're fine. And it's a very easy, quick process. Like here, I had a little mistake. No biggie. But again, the top 2/3 look really different from the bottom. They look like they have dimension. They look like they're standing out from the mortar, my faux mortar here in the background, just with that little tiny shadow. They look 3-dimensional. I mean, it's crazy. And it's not like I'm doing anything fancy. This is not a special skill. If you can draw an L, you can do this. But it is interesting that using the same side of the marker, you're getting 2 very different line widths. So if you imagine like calligraphy, the way people use calligraphy markers, where a lot of times you'll have to kind of press the pen to get a different line width. I'm not doing anything different in terms of pressure at all. This is the same side of the marker. I'm just going in 2 different directions, and it's giving me a completely different line thickness because of the angle that the chisel tip is at, if that makes sense. You can ask me questions if that's not clear enough. I'll show it to you up close in just a second. My camera decided not to focus yesterday. I hope it's focusing today. Sometimes my camera's like, I need a day off. And I'm like, no, you work for me. Okay. So there they are, finished. And do they not look 3-dimensional? They totally do. And it's okay if I have like that little wonky one in the center. And because of the way that you put down color when you're doing, I consider this to be like, I need to make up a term for this, but it's a short period of time that the marker is actually resting on the paper, right? So the ink that's flowing out of the marker is not very great in this technique because I'm not spending a lot of time with my marker touching down onto my paper. So as you would expect, when I flip my paper over, I'm not getting a super cohesive image. I did, and I'm going to show you another one in a second, but I did a video where you can do a whole shading technique based on what happens on the back of your paper. But let me show you what this looks like in a different color. So here is a finished card in a different color, 2 different markers, exactly the same technique. But see how what makes it look 3-dimensional is it looks like you're seeing the side of a brick as it's coming out of a wall. So it's almost like you're looking at it from this angle. This is kind of why you want to do them all on the same side. So you noticed I did them all on the left side, did my little L. Otherwise it wouldn't be an L, right? But that's because you're sort of giving a different light source, and it's making it look like those bricks are popping out of that mortar. Then I just took a white gel pen and I just did little dots and little kind of scribbles around, just to, because brick is imperfect. But that's kind of what it looks like on a finished card. So you can do the brick in any color that you want. Like if you wanted these are probably very close to the colors I colored him with. And if you want it to match your project, you can do that. So that is one technique. So now I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do, and here are the tiny bricks. So now I'll show you 2 different ways to do like a cobblestone. So here I just have an ink blended piece of cardstock. And I'm going to cut myself a little road here. We're going to have a little path for, let's say it's a little hobbit to travel down. And I'm going to make it wider at one side so we can really kind of get the most out of our technique. And with this one, we're going to be doing a little bit of perspective. There wasn't a lot of perspective on the first one because it's kind of a flat surface. So, thanks, Barb. So you don't really have that moving away from the viewer thing. Oops, I have a little extra cut there. Hang on. We can't have that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves a little cobblestone path. So on this technique, we did light mortar, dark bricks. And on the next technique, we're going to do dark mortar and light bricks. So if you imagine the way that cobblestones look, they have dimension, they're rounded. And so they will be lighter on top. And you will see darker, possibly darker things like dirt underneath them. So I will be starting with OR 3.7. And I'm just going to use the chisel side to cover this piece. Now, when you're coloring with these and you're coloring something that is a cut layer, so like a die cut or a piece of paper that I've hand cut like this, then you will want to make sure you color the sides, because if you're putting it on something else, then you don't want that little white strip at the side to come down and get you. And once again, you can blend this if you want. You do not need to, because this is all going to kind of melt into the little cobblestones. So see what I mean? There was a little white bit right there. So we will just cover this completely. And go all the way down to the bottom. And there's so much ink that comes out of these that you'll get good. You'll have plenty of mortar for your little stones. But like I said, if you wanted to put another layer on and totally blend this out, you could. It's just not necessary. Okay, so now we will switch to, this is O2.2, and this is also a chisel tip. You could do this with a brush tip as well if you wanted to, but it's going to be a lot slower on something that's as large as what I'm doing here. So what we want to do is, the way that I like to do my cobblestones is I like to do kind of a blob, which you don't, even though this has some sharp angles that we use to our advantage on the bricks, you can also do very soft shapes with it. And I'm using a much lighter color here for two reasons. One, the dimension that I told you about, but two, because it's going to push that darker ink to the edge of my stones, and it's going to make them look like the like there's dirt or something at the edge. So you can still use the straight angled part and do kind of like an oval. You can make these a little bit squared off. You can make them round. Whatever you want to do is fine. I wish I had some little Bob Ross saying to say right now. And it will give you this nice rounded rectangle. for your cobblestones. The other advantage of using the light color on the dark background is you get a lot of texture in there from the ink moving at different rates. And what I found when I was first doing this cobblestone technique, I was like, you know what that looks like? I'm going to let Lee guess. What does this look like? What would this be a phenomenal technique for? Tell me, Lee. I mean, look at that. I know it's in all of your heads, especially you Pacific Northwesters. Yes, it looks like tree rings. It looks like cut slices of wood. So that was my bonus. That was my first secret bonus for you, is that this is not only a good color combo, because this is the one that I used before. It's a phenomenal color combo for wood slices, but this is one of those things that you can only discover when you're practicing. So that's why it's kind of important to grab some paper that you're not super, don't have plans for, and try different pairs of colors, because I did not intend when I set out to make these cobblestones for this to be like the perfect wood slice technique, but it is. So sometimes you can only do that if you're really just goofing around, trying new stuff instead of looking up. And I'm talking to all my crafter friends here, instead of looking up and following a tutorial. If you go rogue every now and then and just do your own thing, you're going to find some little happy accidents like this. Okay, so I do the same thing on the cobblestones. I offset them a little bit to make them look irregular. And what you want to pay attention to here is, if you're doing what I'm doing, which is kind of a little path, you want to pay attention to where you are on the path. So I only want to do about a third of the path and that is completely random. You can do whatever you want, but I'm only going to do about a third of the path with this size of cobblestone. So just keep that in mind, because you do have a perspective issue that we need to take care of, that hopefully I've done it before. Hopefully I'll be able to do it again. We'll see. But just be mindful of that as you're creating your little rounded rectangles. So you can get this nice soft shape with a completely straight marker tip. So if you're looking at that, it's just a straight line. That's all it is. A straight rectangle. Yeah, snakeskin would be phenomenal. Yeah, dragons would be great. And honestly, if you look at it closely, you can see a lot of different things. You could see stone textures, like if I were, and we can experiment if I have the right colors, like a lapis texture or a malachite texture, something like that. If you're looking for something that looks super organic, this is a great technique. And it's funny, when I was playing with these, and when I very first got my OLO markers back in the beginning when they were brand new, and I was trying to, come up with wacky ideas for this. That's where a lot of these kind of techniques come from, is you will find these little accidental textures when you're doing stuff like that. That's how I came up with the coloring technique too. But I was thinking that the stone texture would be amazing, because I'm used to coloring. Ooh, turtle shell. That's a great idea, because I'm used to coloring critters. So that's where my mind goes to, is to a dragon, to a lizard, something like that. But there's a lot of inanimate objects that you can use this on as well. Okay, so I would say this is probably going to be my last row right here for perspective's sake of the full size stone. And by full size stone, the way that I'm kind of gauging this is it's about 1.5 lengths of the chisel tip. Okay, so I have a row here and almost another row there. And that's how I'm figuring that out. But as this path goes off into the distance, if it were in real life, the stones would appear to be more compressed. They wouldn't be as chunky as the ones that are right in front of your face. So check this out. Look at that. Don't you love, okay, I can sense that some of you are like, okay, I'm going to try this. Right? Are you trying it right now? You should be. Okay, so for the next row, I'm going to size them down just a bit. We're going to try to make this kind of gradual. So on this row, I'm just making maybe 1.25 of the marker tip. Okay. And you can kind of square them off a little bit if that's easier. But see how that starts to transition? Oh, sorry. Let me show you up close. See how that starts to transition to a smaller stone? That's going to give us our perspective. Okay, so the only thing that I'm very careful to do is to offset my stones. That's the only thing I really kind of spend a lot of time on, is offsetting the stones. So just a little tiny bit more than a marker width. I love it. I could do this all day. I know. I love the chisels. Oh, but you know what's cool, Lee? Let me show you this. Now, Kathy will have to tell me if this is right. Can you get them in these little boxes? You can get little sets of them. They come in like color groups. And they come in these little boxes. They don't take up any space at all. Because we all know the thing that we care the most about is space. But they just come, I mean, I don't know if they all come in this little box. Remember, I'm an early adopter, so, but you'll get a little tiny box that has a bunch of the chisel tips in them in different color palettes, which is a great way to buy them. And it's really nice to be able to buy half a marker, y'all. Like, that is kind of a life-changing magic to only buy half of a marker. I mean, talk about a great way to build up your colors and have the texture advantage of mixing your chisels and your brushes. And here's what I would do. So I signed up to buy the, when they first came out, like that first set that they had, because we have full set syndrome. So I was like, oh, I got to have all of them. But here's the deal. When you go back for the chisels, you don't have to have the whole set at once. And what you can do is pair them up for different things that you're going to do. Because, like, I know I'm going to do brick. I know this about myself. I know I'm going to do cobblestones and now the wood slices that I accidentally found. But maybe I'm not going to do, blue bricks or something like that. And so you can, it doesn't have to be, you have to have all the chisels right now. I mean, that's what we want, but. Okay. So I did 1, 2, 3. So I did about that much. I think I need to go a couple more rows with this one. Oh, the brushes? There was a brush demo at Stamp Joy? I might need to see video of that. Yes, with a full marker's worth of ink in each half. That's the real deal right there. That's what I keep telling people. This is so much more an economical marker. I mean. But the mix and match, that's my dog right there. Because for one thing, if you make videos, if you make crafty videos, you know how difficult it is to have 67 markers sitting on your desk while you're filming. Now, of course, I do have 67 markers sitting on my desk right now while I'm filming. But it's way nicer to just have 4 and 2 markers, especially if you have a small desk like I do. So do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so I think I'm ready to switch to the next smaller. What do you think about that? You know, it almost could, like, if I extended it and I didn't round the edges, the other thing it could be is a beautiful wood floor. So I'll show you that in just a second. So now I'm going to switch. And we're going to go smaller. Okay. So again, I'm trying to not quite half it down for perspective's sake. Okay. A little less than half. Or a little more than half. Sorry. That felt like math there for a second. So I lost it temporarily. But it gives you a very realistic sense of something moving away from you, which is awesome. 25% off chisels all October. Plus 128 piece brush chisel. Y'all, look what she's saying. It's chisel month. It is chisel month. Do it. And you can go even skinnier up here at the top. We'll see where this takes me. But if you watched the video on their channel that I did with the blue bricks, these are more the size of the stones that I was using there. And that's with the tippy tip part. Nice, Roberta. Roberta is all set. Roberta is going to go out there and make some wood slice textures, y'all. And some wood boards for the floor. It's going to be awesome. It's a good investment, Roberta. Okay, so I think I'll do one more row of the kind of skinnier stones. And then we'll do a real skinny stone or two. And I showed this in the other video too. So if you're joining late or you want to see this after you watch the replay, then go back to their channel. First of all, hit subscribe. Second, hit like on this video because it shares it. The robots share it. We all work for the robots now. But then go back to their channel. And this was last month. So scroll back a little bit and you'll see the blue bricks. And you'll see a different way to vary the sizes and to add texture inside the little bricky stones. Okay, I think I'm going to do one more. So I'm being a little bit indecisive about how many I'm going to do. But I want it to look like a realistic perspective. And then spend a little more time on each stone as you're using the shorter side of the chisel tip to get that same lightness that you have everywhere else. Oh, you have a fun session ahead of you, Roberta. But see how it looks like. Uh-oh, was I frozen for a second? See how it looks like it's going away from you? Just by varying the size of the stones. Okay, so let's see if we can do some ultra skinny stones here up at the top. Now this is using the tippy tip, but I'm putting it at that same angle I showed you before. The angle is going up, kind of between my fingers, and it gives you a very, very thin line. So this is the line that I was using with the shading on the bricks. But since I'm holding the pen down to the paper a little bit more, it will naturally be a little bit thicker than it was on the bricks because I was just doing that quick L. So there you go. Now tell me that that does not look like those, like you are really walking down that path. Tell me, don't tell me because it's not true and it's Tell the Truth Thursday. Look at that. All with one marker. Well, technically two markers, but okay. So then when I put that on my card, that's how that's going to look. And I have like this super realistic looking scene that took like no effort. Hang on. You know what's great about stuff like this too? You don't even have to have a steady hand. So if you're like getting up and having 3 shots of espresso every morning before you start coloring, you don't even have to worry about shaky hands because this is so easy to do, whether you have shaky hands or not. And I know a lot of artists do. So there you go. You also don't have to have a lot of fine motor skill to do something that looks super duper realistic, in my opinion. Thanks, Lee. Okay, so let me show you like a side bonus of this technique, and that is now I picked up a little bit of red ink from my mat. Always clean your mat. But if you turn this over, it's an entirely new cobblestone path with a totally different texture. Look at that. So the ink is a little bit, you're not getting as much of like that wood grain texture that you do on this side, where the inks are just mixing it up together and they're thicker on this surface of the paper. There's more ink on this surface of the paper, so they're reacting with each other a little bit more. But here, where it's just bleeding through, I agree. That's what I like about the OLOs too. That was one of the first techniques that I tried, was like a bleed through coloring technique. But this side is just as interesting. So depending on what you're going for, and excuse the red marks, but I mean, I could turn this into a Halloween card with all the little red on there. I could have a zombie going down this path. You know, I love zombies, but it's just a totally different look. The other thing you'll notice is that in the, because I did not blend the background color, which is the darker color, I actually get a white grout or mortar or sand or whatever you want this to be in between the stones, instead of this side where it's very dark and it looks natural, like an outside kind of garden setting. So you have two options, is my point, with every one of these little coloring session. So that was, when I did my little sample, I was going to show you how different that looked on the back. And the same is true here. This side has a dark background and this side has a light background. So let's just try it with a couple different colors. Let's just see what these, what kind of textures you might like with some of these other ones. We'll do like a lapis kind of color. And then there is this stone, and I'll never remember the name of it, but I bought it in a piece of jewelry in Santa Fe. And it looks like lapis, but it's the most vivid violet that you've ever seen. It's so pretty. I'll never remember the name of it. It's from another country. So I'll just grab 2 more and we'll do the, yes, during a rainstorm. Exactly. Yep. Roberta knows. Okay, so we'll just do these on this scrap. So we'll start with the dark color again. And we'll see if we can't get like a stone look like we got. I still think malachite would be pretty, but I don't have my greens right here on my desk. So you're getting blue and purple is what you're getting, and you're gonna like it. Okay. So again, don't worry about the stripes. You don't need to blend. That is not a problem. Uh-oh. Some of the sets include OLO storage boxes, OLO sketchbook, which, by the way, is very nice. I have the OLO sketchbook, and an OLO enamel pen. Y'all need to get yourself some chisels. Okay, so I paired it with a lighter blue. I didn't actually look at these on my chart or anything. This is me just playing. Ooh, that's a pretty combo. One of the things that kind of is fun about randomly combining these colors instead of like looking at my chart, which I do a lot of the times when I'm just coloring an image, is you'll get these kind of unexpected little pairings. Like here I have like a green tone, and your colors don't have to match. As a matter of fact, I'll do that on the purple. I'll do something else. I have like a greenish blue for my light color, but then I have something with a more kind of violet-y tone for my dark color, and you can actually see both of those in this texture, which is very fun. But I think this looks like stone, like some kind of stone, some kind of precious, semi-precious stone. It would also make a great water texture though. But with that dark edge, I really think it looks like stone. This is what it looks like on the back. Isn't that fun? Okay, so let's just do something wacky on the purple and see what we get. I'll use the same color that I used on the cobblestone. So it's a complementary color combo. Ooh, that's pretty. This would be a fun Halloween combo. So you get kind of this glowy sort of orange texture on top of the violet texture. Very fun. Love that. This would be a fun one for furniture. So let's say you were coloring a little scene where you had some funky little sofa, or maybe a rug or some draperies. This is a really fun combo. That warm, this actually reminds me of some watercolor combos that I really like. Don't be afraid of complementary colors, because you can always go in. I can even go into this and add, little bits of complementary colors. See what that does to these little stones. So it could be like a moss that was growing on a cobblestone, for example, because the sort of yellowish tone that's in this orange is reacting with the blue and turning it green. And the great thing about OLO markers is they all work with other OLO markers. I mean, you're not going to ruin your marker. You're not going to do anything bad. They all work great together. So think outside the color combo would be my advice. Oh, a backsplash. That's a good idea. Yeah, because you know how everybody's come out with those cute little cafe style dies and stuff. Those types of dies are a great way to showcase this texture. So you sort of scooped me there, Roberta, because what I was going to show you was the tippy tip brick. So this is a little house die cut. And I use this skinny like I did here, where I'm doing just like the very tippy top of the marker on what's really a very tiny die cut. It's like 2 inches wide. And you can see how much texture you get just with this exact same technique. And then I went ahead and did the same on the brick. So, and you get double texture here because this is embossed, plus that stone texture. So you can see like the little flaws that they put in the stone. And it just looks really realistic. So even on a very small area, you can still get a super precise masonry kind of texture if you want it. So think about that. Think about that when you're making cards. Think about bricks. Think about cobblestone paths. I actually really like this. I'm going to put that back on there. And different colors of brick, all with a chisel tip marker. So check out her links to all of those fun things and get yourself some free stuff this month. I really love that sketchbook. The sketchbook is really, really nice. I love a good sketchbook. That's why I have 4,000 of them, you know, because that's how we are. But this one is really, really nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you try some chisel stuff. Don't forget to, if you like this video, to share it with some of your friends, or if you have a YouTube channel, share it on your page. And hopefully I will see you guys again soon. Way to go, Lee. You're going to do so much fun stuff. I can't wait to see what you do. I know you're going to do something with a grizzly bear on it. I know you're going to do some wood slice with a grizzly bear on it. So I can't wait to see it. You will enjoy them so much. So thank you. Thank you for having me, OLO marker. You guys are awesome. I love my OLO markers. Y'all have a good one and have a good weekend. It's coming up, so you should make sure you color something. I will see you soon.